Hi, Mark Gilbert here. Thanks for clicking in. The title of this video is going across the bottom of your screen right about now. As I'm recording it, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to call it. It's going to be something like Be Yourself Now, or Get Your Bloatedness Out of the Way, or Be Yourself Dammit. It's a call for action for you and also for me to remove whatever barriers we may have from living our life purposefully. Now, I'm making this video a little bit for me, obviously. That's one of my confessions I wanted to make right off the bat. But I also have to confess that I sometimes am concerned about what you think when I'm filming these videos. Sometimes my projection about how you're going to judge them comes into play and keeps me from actually speaking my truth real fully. It puts barriers up in my mind about how I approach a topic or how I'm going to say the topic. And so I need to let go of that, don't I? You know, this has been a pattern that has existed in my life as long as I can remember. Off and on, I can think of times where I've reduced it to a degree, but it always rears its ugly head and comes back in another form or fashion. It started back when I was young. When I've reflected on why it's come up or why it came up when I was young, a lot of that had to do with my parents and the messages they gave me, not consciously, but just inadvertently. The things they said and did made me question my self-worth. It made me question my abilities and whether or not I was good enough to do certain things. And how it then played out in my actions was throughout my life in schooling, I would not speak up. I wouldn't raise my hand. I tried to be invisible. I would slink into the background. So much of my life was that way up until my adulthood. There was one exception to this. When I was in middle school and we were living in a small town, I got comfortable one day, and people around me in the classroom I felt a degree of camaraderie with. The night before, I had watched this movie on TV, Elmer Gantry, about a evangelical itinerant preacher and, very fire and brimstone. And when the next day I was in class and the teacher left the room, and for some reason I got up and just started imitating one of these preachers who roams around and preaches fire and brimstone. I had the class rolling and laughing and wasn't even aware the teacher had come back into the room and was watching me. And suffice it to say, I got into trouble, got sent to the principal, etc. Didn't do that again and went back into my shell a little bit. And shortly after that, we moved anyway. But throughout my rest of my schooling career, I was pretty much stayed in the background and didn't stand out in the front. However, I always remembered that event because I felt like I was truly in the flow. There was something so fun about it, fun about allowing myself to allow the words to come through, to feed off the reaction of the room. And in that, I learned that I could actually speak to people. Now, I won't say that it carried forward because by the time I was in college, I recognized I still had the pattern of not speaking to people and not raising my hand. So I finally took a speech class. And in the speech class, they were trying to teach us the steps to putting together a good debate argument for presentation, which I wasn't focused on. I was focused more on getting up in front of the room and not shaking, not having a quivering voice, not having my knees knock, etc. And so through the practice of getting up and speaking, I got a little bit better by the end of the class, such that I felt the class was a success, even though it was probably my lowest grade I got in college. But later on, as I became an adult, I continued to push myself into becoming a public speaker. Now, it's interesting because many people, and many of you watching this, are probably thinking, I don't like getting up in front of people and talking. In fact, it's one of the biggest public fears we have in this country is getting up in front of a group and talking. And why is that? I think a lot of it is because we're afraid of what the people out there are going to think about us. We let our projection of the potential judgments that they're going to make about us cloud our abilities to get up and talk. Well, I continued pushing myself through my adult years, and I got feedback that I was actually pretty good at public speaking. But even though I did that a lot with the government and with Medicare through many years of public speaking on government stuff, it was still kind of a switch for me when I became a minister and started to speaking about spiritual topics. So I had to sort of learn to overcome my fear again of talking about stuff that's personal rather than technical. That said, I did get better at it, and one of the things I discovered is that even though every public speech that I did or every sermon or talk I gave at a spiritual center, I would always have some butterflies and nervousness at the beginning that within a moment or two of getting up and starting to talk, those would go away and I would get into the flow. And what that reinforced for me was that one of my gifts and abilities and one of my purposes in life was to speak and to teach. And I've mentioned that in some other videos. But the power that comes through and the sense of reinforcement that comes through in the public speaking has so reinforced that in my awareness that it really truly tells me that's what I'm here for. So, fast forward, I'm making these videos, and as they started late last year, I got to confess, I was concerned about what you were going to think. And so I started scripting them. Now, interestingly enough, when I was doing public talks, I rarely spoke from a script. I had it planned out and I had a general idea of where I was going, but I didn't want to have it so constricted that I couldn't get into the flow and allow the words to flow naturally and to say what I needed to say, and sometimes go off into a tangent and say something a little bit different and wonder where the heck did that come from. But the interesting piece is when I started these videos, I was scripting them. I wanted to get the words right, and I spent a lot of time on the words, had a teleprompter and was reading the teleprompter. And, I got okay feedback on the videos, but a little while into it, I went to one of my spiritual teachers and I was asking them about, how can I reach more people through these videos? What can I do to enhance their quality? And the interesting comment I got back was to instill humor into the videos. And I thought, oh my God, oh no. Because what I had discovered about humor is that there's two types of humor. There is the planned script humor where you work on a joke and you get it ready to go and you say the joke. And comedians get really good at this. A lot of them, of course, are you take somebody like Seinfeld and their performances are well scripted. But whenever I tried to script jokes and build them into my spiritual talks, they would take me out of the flow. The reason for that is I started worrying about what people were going to think about the joke. Was the joke going to go over? Would it get a laugh? Would it fit appropriately? Would it lead into the right concepts that I wanted to present? All of that garbage was going around in my head, such that, more times than not, I didn't deliver the joke very well. So when the spiritual teacher said I should put more humor into the videos, I thought, God, how am I going to put scripted jokes into these things and, without them being stilted and unfunny? Which leads me to the other kind of humor. I know, and people tell me that in my personal life, when I interact with folks, I like to joke around. I'm not a very serious person. I like to find the humor in things, and humor just naturally comes up within me in most moments. And those of you who know me know that's a fact about me. But that humor is hard to roll into these videos, because even when I go back and look at the video later, if I did something that was fairly funny to me, I'm going to cut it out of concern over what you're going to think. Anyway, this morning in my meditation, I was reflecting again upon the fact that how do I bring humor into these videos? How do I make them more in the flow? The last few that I've been doing, in fact for the last maybe month or two, I really have stopped using scripts and started having a general idea where I was going, much like a spiritual talk, and then getting in front of the camera and letting the words flow. Hopefully it's working well. You can be the judge of that, right? But in any case, in my meditation this morning, what came up for me is the words, be yourself. And I thought, well, of course, when I am myself, I'm just naturally see the humor in things, and I'm going to start kidding around and joking around about stuff. And there was a great irony in that too, because those of you who know me know, or if you've looked at my website, you know that I've published a book a few years ago called Be Yourself. And so it was very funny that here I am having written a book, and in a meditation, I'm being given the title of the book as a reminder of something that I need to do in this moment, which is in these videos to be myself. And what do I mean by be yourself? So in the book, although there's a lot about that, I wanted to cut to the chase in one brief paragraph which describes it. And just let me read it real briefly. It says, as I see it, being yourself means that you answer the call to live your life purpose. Being yourself means living the life you were placed on earth to live. It means recognizing the unique gifts you have to give to the world and then moving forward to express them regardless of the barriers you meet. Well, lo and behold, I guess I've been meeting some barriers. The barriers are my imagination, my reflection within me of what I'm thinking you're going to think. And so I need to let go of that barrier. My concerns over the good opinions of others, my concerns over your judgments of me have kept me from being myself in these videos. And it's no surprise really when I sit back and look at it, because in most of my life, whenever I find myself getting uptight or worrying about how I'm going to perform, it's generally based on some kind of fear, a fear of what others are going to think, fear that I won't be good enough, fear of some sort of shame that's built into my life, fear of the unknown. We all have these fears. We all picked up some fears when we were younger. And although many of us have worked on them to a degree, it's like peeling an onion, and we continue to find new layers of the fears. So I'm calling you in this moment to ask yourself, what is it that you're fearful of? Where are you not being yourself? What is it that you feel that you have a calling and a purpose to do in this lifetime, but for some reason you're limiting yourself and not allowing yourself to do it simply because you've got concerns or fears? Is it the same fear that I've been expressing here? Fear of what others think? Well, it's time for you and for me to let go of that fear. It's time for both of us to be ourselves. So get your bloatedness out of the way. Identify your life purpose. I've got videos on that topic. Find what's keeping you from doing that, the barrier from being yourself. Work on eliminating that barrier. I'll probably still have concerns about what you're going to think in future videos, but at least today, in this video, I'm proclaiming I'm going to let that go. And from henceforth, I'm going to be myself. Till next time. Hey, one more quick thing. I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel. The link is down there on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Also, there's a related video you might want to watch. It's right next to my face. And if you like this video, be sure to click like and leave me a comment on YouTube. Thanks.